Hello, and welcome to Catholicism in the Car. My name is Parker Zerbal.
Today I want to offer some thoughts on free will. I had talked a little while ago about the differences between monergism and synergism. At the end of it, I don't really see, the more thinking I do about this issue, I don't really see how the two differ. Because in a certain sense, you can say monergism is true, but in another sense, you can say synergism is true. It seems to me like a difference in perspective. And the debate, I think when people debate about it, it might be pointless. Now, hear me out. Monergism, coming from the Greek roots, meaning one action, means that the relationship between God and man, there is one action that takes place. And within monergism, that is the action of God. Synergism, coming from the Greek roots, meaning together action or acting together, is the idea that man and God work together in their relationship. That it's a two-way street. Now, in the one hand, pro-synergism and against monergism. If you are a strict monergist and you think that the relationship between God and man, the only one acting is upon the side of God, the only one acting is God, then there is, strictly speaking, no relationship that takes place whatsoever. Now, I do not think that many sincere Christians, if any sincere Christians, take that view. That really there's no relationship possible between God and man, because God is the only one that acts. Now, on the opposite side, an extreme form of synergism would be that God acts fully, and then man acts fully in return. I don't know of any Christians who are taken seriously who would take this view, because man, of course, of himself, can do nothing except by the grace of God. There go I. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, if you believe in a creator God, if you believe in a creator God, a God who has the power to create something out of nothing, that God must therefore hold that thing or things in existence. Now, unless God creates things from prior material, which Christians do not believe, and classical theism also does not believe, because then, it just makes God one being among many. If there is pre-existing material, that material, means that there was at least two things before the creation of the world. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see how anybody could take that view if they are a classical theist or even just any sort of an Orthodox Christian, whether that be Orthodox Protestant, Orthodox Eastern Orthodox, or an Orthodox Catholic, within their own realms of jurisdiction. I don't see how anyone could take either of these two extremes. Now, without these two extremes, I don't see much of a distinction between these two views. If you take, for instance, the Calvinist view that I know of, they would say that yes, God is the only one that acts, but there is still a relationship there. And in that sense, man does act. In that sense, man has the ability to act, and that action has only been given to him by God. Well, really, Catholics can say the exact same thing, and so can Armenians. Not Armenians. Arminians. Armenians are, that's a specific rite within Catholicism. Sorry, Arminians, which generally are considered to be Protestants that are synergistic in some form. I mean, unless a Protestant takes the view that there is strictly no free will, and it is only the action of God, and that man can do nothing, that literally everything man does is an action of God. If man picks up a cup, it's an action of God. If man, like basically saying that there's no passive action within God. There's no passive will. There's only active will, and God wills everything that happens, which means that God would have to will sin in a certain sense. And that is just, that's so completely contradictory to what basic philosophy says. I don't see how a Protestant could hold to that. And on the same end, if someone is an extreme synergist, you could say, where man acts totally alone without God, then what that means is God is not all powerful, and that God is not sovereign, and thus God is just one creature among many, and man has the ability to overrule God de facto. De facto, man has the ability to overrule God. Now, Catholics and I believe some Armenian Protestants would say, in a sense, de jure, by the law that God has created, by what God has created, man can act upon himself, or can act separately from God in a certain sense, because God has given him that gift. But that doesn't mean man can act strictly apart from God, because man has nothing apart from God. Man is nothing apart from God. Apart from God, man ceases to exist. Even hell, there is some sort of connection with God there. It's a mystery, it's a mysterious connection, but the connection is at least that God is holding that person in existence away from him. Now, unless you're an annihilationist who believes that, at the end of time, or even at the personal judgment, if someone is condemned to hell, they're just annihilated. Their hell is to be annihilated, which I don't think is. I've heard Catholics take that view, but I don't think it's an orthodox view within Catholicism. Just because of the clarity of Scripture on this point, Old and New Testaments. Anyway, those are some thoughts on these differences between Synergism and Monergism. And in the end, unless you're an extremist on one or the other, I don't see how it matters. It's just a difference in emphasis. I don't get it.